It's my pleasure to call this meeting to order. You will see that we'll be using the chat box or phone for voting purposes. For voting members to make a motion or second a motion, please use the chat function on the right side of the screen and type "I move" or "I second" and include your full name and organization. Or if you're calling in, please just unmute yourself, identify, and please speak. I will then ask you to vote in favor, oppose, or abstain. Again, use the chat box. Voting members include volunteer MBC members who are active members between January 1st, 2021 and December 31st, 2021, and who are currently members in good standing. Voting members also include the current board of directors for volunteer MBC, in-house active volunteers, and honorary lifetime members. Voting members are eligible to vote on any motions and resolutions brought forward at today's annual general meeting. Please note that there's only one vote per member organization. We also sent audited financials and the 2021 AGM minutes by email to all registered attendees before this AGM. Here's our proposed agenda for today. We've got our approval of the 2021 AGM minutes, approval of the 2021 financials, approval of the 2022 auditors. We have some bylaw amendments. We've got our election of board of directors. We've got presentation of our 2021 annual report. And we've got one small step, a special presentation. Does anyone have anything to add to today's meeting agenda? Okay. May I please have a motion to approve the meeting agenda as it stands? Can I get a motion for that, please? Thank you. Can I get a seconder? Thank you. Confirmed correct, Marina? Okay.
Yes, Jim.
Excellent. I'd like to call a vote, please. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstains? Okay, I believe the motion is carried. Thank you for accepting our agenda as circulated. You've also had a chance to review the 2021 AGM minutes that were sent in advance via email. May I have a motion to approve the 2020-2021 AGM minutes, please? Thank you. And a seconder, please. We have a seconder, several seconders, great. I'd like to call a vote, please. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstains? Marina, I believe the motion is carried, correct?
It is.
Thank you, Marina.
You're welcome.
Okay. Well, here's a little fun fact. It's good to learn something new every day, isn't it? So ants count their steps so they can find their way back to their nest later. It's true. That's a true fun fact. That's amazing, right? Okay. Well, that was a fun fact. All right. How do you know? Well, it's, well, speaking of good accounting and auditing, um, we know that good accounting makes life better for everyone. And on that note, it's time to talk about our finances. So I'd like to introduce Ting Gao, our board treasurer and chair of the finance committee. We're grateful to rely on her expertise in so many ways. Ting actually first volunteered with us as a newcomer when she was in high school. Once she became a CA, we're grateful and delighted that she came back to us and currently serves as a volunteer board member. She will present the auditor's report in our 2021 financial statements for volunteer MBC and will share insights of our financial story. The financial statement is included in our annual report and will be on our website following the AGM and was also shared ahead of time by email. And with that, Ting, over to you, please.
Great. Thank you, Jim, and good afternoon, everybody. Thank you to everyone for the opportunity to present the 2021 financial statements as audited by Denny & Associates. Our auditors are also on the call today and will be able to address any questions concerning the accounts and note disclosures contained within our statements. Before we get started, I would actually like to express my gratitude and acknowledge the incredible efforts of Marina Campos, our Director of Operations, and Laurel Stoltz, our trusted accountant, for their amazing work in maintaining our books since the inception of our organization. Next slide, please, and thank you. You can go skip over to the next slide as well, thanks. To the financial position, please. Perfect. Thank you. So here at Volunteer MBC, our vision is to improve lives through volunteerism. But
Michelle speaking, Elder Help Peel, how may I help you? Excuse me.
Our vision is to improve lives through volunteerism by fueling purposeful connections between people to respond to the most pressing social issues within our community. To achieve and deliver on our vision, we need to have strong financial results to support our ongoing endeavors within the communities that we serve. As our province continues on a path towards renewal, growth, and economic recovery, I'm happy to report that we wrapped up a year full of achievements and attained some great financial results. During fiscal 2021, we were successful with several grant applications from various government levels and foundations to support many strategic objectives as well as our new and ongoing projects. We also generated additional revenue from our Learning Center, membership, and fundraising events to further support our programs. You will see this funding reflected in our significantly higher revenue balance of $801,000. Which will be on the next slide. And at the end of 2021, this is an increase of 31% from our revenue in 2020. We'd like to note that this increase in revenues is also attributable to the $144,000 or 54% decrease in our deferred revenue balance that you see on the screen there. And a portion of this deferred revenue balance represents funding received and deferred from a prior period. And this is just in alignment with the specific grant or program deliverable requirements. During the year, we also received an additional $20,000 under the Canada Emergency Business Account or CEBA program, which leads to a total loan balance of $60,000, of which $20,000 will be repayable within the certain grant requirements, and this is disclosed in the notes as well. Could we jump to the next slide, please? Thanks. So with respect to our successful grant applications, we received $385,000 in total of federal, provincial, and regional funding, and this makes up 48% of our total revenues. $72,000 or 9% of our funding comes from the cities of Mississauga, Brampton, and the town of Caledon. $183,000 of funding came from a number of foundations, including the United Way of Greater Toronto, the Ontario Trillium Foundation, and the Community Foundations of Canada, making up 23%. And $161,000, or the remaining 20%, comes from our core programs, memberships, learning center, and fundraising events. Our core funding, which also includes donations, sponsorships, and fundraisers, increased by 42% this year, or $47,000 compared to the prior year. And this increase reflects the results of our successful golf tournament that we held last September, which yielded a net of $24,000, which is more than double of 2019's tournament results. And these funds will be used to support our pandemic recovery efforts. Some of the foundational grants that we received this year allowed us to bring back 2 key roles to the organization, which strengthened our fund development, marketing, communications, and program coordination capabilities. The effect of this is correlated with the increase in program expenses, which includes the salaries, benefits, and costs associated with the talent added to our team this year to oversee our projects, fundraisers, and community initiatives. Beyond this line item, the organization's operating expenses on a global basis are consistent with the prior year. At the end of 2021, our operations yielded $86,000 of revenues in excess of expenses. Congratulations, team. Fellow members, it's important to note that these positive financial results do not actually show the underlying challenges and roadblocks that many nonprofit organizations, including our own, will need to overcome as we continue down this road to recovery. The demand for programming across the nonprofit sector is on the rise, and so are the costs to execute and deliver them. Combined with the lower volunteering rates as compared to the pre-pandemic levels, there's also continued uncertainty regarding the extent and availability of future funding from individual donations, sponsorships, and government sources. Consequently, our team budgets a net operating deficit of $30,000 for fiscal 2022, and we are actively monitoring our financial performance and cash flows to adapt to this ever-changing environment. However, as we continue to refresh our programs and services to address the most pressing social issues within our communities, our team here at Volunteer MBC is optimistic that we will emerge stronger from the pandemic environment as we take one small step at a time towards our resilient future. Thanks, everyone. All right, so up next, I will be making 2 motions. The first of which will be to ask for a motion to accept the 2021 audited financial statements as presented. Thank you, Lee. May I have a seconder? Awesome. I'd like to call in a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Abstain? Marina, I'd like to confirm that the motion is carried.
Yes, Ting. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Next up, I would like to have a motion to engage Dang & Associates as Volunteer MBC's auditors and to hold office until the next annual meeting, provided that the directors may fill any casual vacancy in the office of the auditor and that the remuneration shall be fixed by the board. Thank you, Vishal. And a seconder as well. Thank you, Lee. I'd like to call in a vote, please. All in favor? Any opposed? Abstains? Marina, can you kindly confirm that the motion is carried?
Motion is carried. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Ting. It's always great to know that Volunteer MBC is on solid ground with its fiscal responsibility. Great year. Thank you, team.
Jim, before we continue, we need to confirm that there is quorum.
Okay.
We check with Marina.
Marina, can you confirm, please, that we have quorum today?
Yes, we have more than the required quorum. So to have our AGM, we need 10 members, but we are at 15 members, and this was at the start of the meeting. We're good to go.
Okay, terrific. Good to check. Okay. Thank you again, Ting, and thank you, team, for a great year financially. I also wanted to share that in 2021, Volunteer MBC restructured its ambassador committee to become the Social Inclusion Ambassador Committee. This was done intentionally, strategically, to provide a greater focus on our values of equity and inclusion and to address it head on. The Social Inclusion Committee devised a DE&I commitment. I also wanted to share that in light of that, we also wanted to ensure that we're using general neutral language within the organization. So I'm going to share with you some bylaw changes that we introduced and that we'd like to share for your consideration. This first bylaw change is meant to replace references in he or she with they. We have two other bylaw changes to consider. As seen here, bylaw 6 concerns 4 key roles on the board: president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. As Volunteer MBC has continued to grow, it is important that the roles receive due attention. So instead of a provision allowing one person to hold multiple roles, this change simplifies that, while also clarifying that these roles are appointed by the board rather than elected. The revised bylaw reads, the president, the vice president, secretary, and the treasurer shall be appointed by the board of directors from among their numbers, in each case to hold office for 1 year or until his or her successor is elected or appointed. I also want to share another bylaw change, which concerns the signing authorities for documents and simplifies this process by making it less restrictive. The revised bylaw is, subject to the following sentence, all documents, contracts, and agreements other than banking documents, as defined in Article 12, requiring execution by the corporation may be signed by any 2 officers, and if they are available, one of the officers signing shall be the executive director in their capacity as chief operating officer of the corporation. And all documents so signed are binding upon the corporation without any further authorization or formality. The board may from time to time appoint any officer or officers or any person or persons on behalf of the corporation, either to sign documents generally or to sign specific documents. The corporate seal of the corporation, if any, shall, when required, be affixed to documents executed in accordance with the foregoing. Documents and correspondence arising in the day-to-day operation of the corporation may be signed by the executive director. That all feels very formal, and it is, for good reason. So, may I have a motion to approve the proposed changes, please? Thank you. And a seconder, please. I'd like to call a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Abstains? Marina, can you confirm that the motion is carried, please?
Motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We're now moving on to our 2022-2023 Board of Directors. And we're very pleased to announce our proposed Board of Directors for 2022-23 includes 3 board members who have recently joined us: Myrna Adams, Abigail Salah, and Mohitveer Gill. Welcome to the three of you. I'd also like to have a motion to accept the slate of nominations for the 2022-2023 Board of Directors as presented on the screen. May I have a motion, please? Thank you. And a seconder? I'd like to call a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Abstains? Marina, can you confirm the motion is carried, please?
Yes, it is. Congratulations, everybody.
Very good. Thank you. And please join me in welcoming our new board members, Myrna Adams, Mohitveer Gill, and Abigail Salah. Welcome. Welcome, everyone. I'd also like to recognize one of our previous board members. Taranjeet Gourel has since moved on. We wanted to thank Taranjeet for his time and efforts in supporting us here at Volunteer MBC. Thank you, Taranjeet. Okay. Wow, another fun fact. The Marabuntas, also referred to as legendary or army ants, use their bodies to link up and create supply routes to apparently inaccessible areas. Incredible, right? And with that amazing fun fact, I am now going to turn our AGM over to our Executive Director, Corinne Strong, to provide a summary and review the highlights of our annual report. Corinne, over to you, please.
Thank you so much, Jim. Yes, in 2021, Volunteer MBC really was all the ants of our community taking part and linking together and matching us out of darkness and into the light. And hence the fun fact is very appropriate. So I'm really pleased to share some of our highlights about what we accomplished this past year. For the theme for this year's AGM, as you probably noticed, is small steps to build a better tomorrow. And it's inspired by the small but mighty ants' ability to work collaboratively to build a magnificent home while playing a vital role in our ecosystem. The Volunteer MBC team and its family of not-for-profit members have really taken many small but very mighty steps this year to build a tomorrow that is worthy of the hope and optimism that drives us to do what we do today. So here's a quick run through of all our achievements. And we'll be sharing a link to the 2021 annual report in the chat box so that you can review it at your convenience. And the report is presented as a web page, so you can also follow the links in the report for further info and watch the videos at your leisure that have been embedded in there as well. So there are many highlights and significant aspects in 2021, and the annual report can only capture, a small part of that. However, I think it's important to begin with the area where Volunteer MBC perhaps played its most imperative role, which was the emergency response. We accessed funding from the federal government, from United Way Greater Toronto and the Community Foundations of Canada, and really put together every cent we could muster to keep the emergency response going as much as possible. We call this recruitment, coordination, and mobilization efforts the continuum of care. To put it simply, volunteers really kept Peel Region alive. Our volunteer drivers brought food and essentials to where it was needed the most. So let's hear from one of our drivers first. Okay.
2020. I've been delivering food and PPE for those impacted by COVID-19, and I've had a great experience with Volunteer MBC, which allowed me to collaborate with my workplace, which is Trillium Supply Chain, and Volunteer MBC to create a fundraiser and help those in my community that are affected by COVID-19. We hope our contributions make a positive impact on our community, and we look forward to collaborating in the future with Volunteer MBC and Trillium Supply Chain.
Wonderful. So I think, it's also very important to mention our work with another partner. It's located in Community Door where we are, our friends at Moyo Health and Community Services, about the impact of the meals that our volunteer drivers have been delivering. Volunteer MBC played a big part in the distribution of over 17,000 meals between April 2020 and December 2021 for vulnerable and isolated individuals and families. The majority of our clients at Moyo were provided food that are facing for individuals that are facing multiple challenges such as health issues, language barriers, financial limitations. They're on ODSW or OW, immigration uncertainty, food insecurity, COVID-19 fear, fatigue, and so many more challenges. The food we as a team delivered will make the difference between a happy holiday season or a sad holiday. These deliveries have brought joy and hope to countless people and families, and the single people living alone are reminded that they are loved and cared for. The families will have healthy meals together with laughter and joy. I'm lucky that I hear the genuine gratitude and relief from these folks via text, email, and phone calls. Our collective efforts have made a huge difference for so many lives. It truly takes a village. I'm so grateful to Volunteer MBC volunteers and their driver, and especially the drivers and the leadership. You guys are awesome. This is from Moyo. And one of the bright spots Volunteer MBC became quite known for over the pandemic was our Mask Marvels program. In 2020, we had placed the call out for volunteers to sew homemade masks, and the call was answered with a resounding yes. And these volunteers are true community heroes. Seen here are just 3 pictures of many of the incredible Mask Marvels. And while the mask mandate is no longer in effect in most spaces, the program is still going and serving an immense need, especially amongst the shelters where they're still, preferring to wear masks. Amazingly, in 2021, our Mask Marvels produced approximately 8,500 masks to protect our community, which is fantastic. And I believe we have a video of so thanks to our drivers and key partners, we've been getting the masks out into the hands of those vulnerable people. So have a listen to Nelson Gomez.
Hi, my name is Nelson Gomez. I'm the coordinator for the harm reduction program at the Region of Peel Public Health. Over the past 2 years, since the spring of 2020, we've had a partnership with Volunteer MBC to provide us with masks, reusable, washable masks that we could then distribute to our clients that we see on outreach. These simple words of gratitude that I'm expressing pale into comparison to how valuable this partnership was for us and for our clients. We serve folks that generally are not welcome in many public spaces, And the Mass to Volunteer MBC provided us was great to break down the barriers so that folks can access services in public spaces and to keep themselves safe during the pandemic. So we're eternally grateful for this partnership.
Wonderful.
Hi, my name is Mel.
So the pandemic made 2021 a very challenging year. There was a major drop in volunteer positions that were available, even though the demand, just wasn't there, but the supply certainly was. So there was a real dichotomy in that, and we're still helping our member organizations to correct that. However, many virtual essential and skilled positions did emerge, and we have been continuously adapting our systems to support. And we've also, worked with our members individually to try and get their roles back up and running. And we are seeing them come back. It's just at a slow pace because the capacity in the nonprofit sector is very limited right now. If you look on the screen, the youth represented in the green portion of the bar continue to seek and receive the most referrals, which is wonderful to see. In 2021, we made 24,000 volunteer referrals. The equivalent economic value for this is estimated at 12 million added to Canada's GDP, which is pretty phenomenal. So volunteers play a huge role. We also provided direct support to our member organizations, supporting them with designing roles and posting positions, providing position templates, pre-screening of volunteers, and matching them to the skill sets that they require. And we added new features and data points to support the changes in volunteers' needs that have been brought on by the pandemic. And we also focused to make sure that for the volunteers that wanted to volunteer, that we helped to continuously remove potential barriers that they might face. So now I would like to give you a warm introduction to Nicole Bonder of Heart Cominos. They're one of our member organizations, and Heart Cominos is one of the newer organizations in Peel, and they're deeply focused on the revitalization of the Cooksville area. They run many community events and are really an integral part of the Cooksville hub. So Cooksville is a neighborhood in Mississauga that will be going through significant change as the Hurontario LRT is constructed. And Heart Cominos builds connections amongst residents. And they engage many volunteers through our referral service. And I would like to ask if Nicole would like to share a few words with us. I believe she's alone.
Yeah, I don't even know where to start. Well, I'm actually a resident of Cooksville, so I grew up here. I've been here my whole life. I went to school here, elementary, middle school, high school, university. So when I met Hardy, which is our executive director, we just had a natural connection because he felt like this area could have a lot of beautification, could have like more things happening, more beautification, right? Anything that could just make the area more better. And so I actually have a background in theater, so I was definitely not a project coordinator and I wasn't in community development at all, but I'm a very artistic person. And so I also studied psychology, so I'm really familiar with working with people, and I was super excited to get on board with Heart Cominos. And we actually started during the pandemic, and it was a strange time to start an organization, but we're really glad that we did because we got into connection with you folks and also the Dam and Indus and a lot of other local organizations. And we just felt like, okay, let's at least put our feet on the ground and see what we can do. And so the first thing that we started was our neighborhood Zoom parties. All we really care about the most is let's find people and actually make real friends, real connections, and see what we can do. We don't want to be the sort of organization that imposes on the community what they should like or what it should be or anything like that. We actually want to bring those things out of the community and see what they want to do. So we started with our neighborhood Zoom parties. And one of the experiences that we did, we imagined ourselves in an apartment together, if we all lived in an apartment together in Cooksville. And for those of you who might not know, Cooksville is one of those neighborhoods in Mississauga that I think has been a little bit neglected. I don't know if you guys have been there, but it is one of the most lowest income neighborhoods in Mississauga. And from my experience from going up here, there was not much always happening. And if there was, you wouldn't even know about it. And it wasn't even until I got hired for Our Commonists that I knew what organizations were in the area, what was happening. So it just feels extremely disconnected. And Sean Mayer, who's a community hub developer, he actually did a feasibility study on Cooksville and found out that there's a high disproportional rate of seniors and children and also single family homes. So plus there's a really high homeless population. So in general, it's extremely disconnected and a high rate of immigrants as well, and a lot of people who don't speak English. So it's just there's definitely a lack of connection. And so we decided to do that exercise. Let's live in an apartment together. And if we lived in an apartment together, what skills or passions or talents or knowledge could we share in this apartment together, and what would happen? And the result was amazing. We had so many people come forward and said, you know what, like I would really love to start a mental health discussion group, or I'm really good at teaching finances, so I could be able to teach some finances to anybody that wants to learn. Or I would like to start a walking club or a biking club. And so that's kind of how it started at all, like how we started moving forward, because our team was so small. We're 3 people. So, and 2 of us are employed. So the third one is a full-time volunteer, including all the other volunteers that we got from Volunteer MBC. And that's how we started building events. So our events started coming from the ideas of the residents that were in our neighborhood Zoom calls and some of the other Zoom meetings that we had. And so, for example, one of the first events we had was at Cooksville Park, and it was right when the pandemic was allowing us to finally gather in person. And we had a chair yoga event at Cooksville Park. And this was a lovely lady named Savita, who we found on Nextdoor. And she has her own little yoga business that she teaches people on Zoom, and she's a resident of Cooksville. So that's how that idea came into play. We actually just asked her if she would want to lead a workshop, and we would get some neighbors in the area and we'd be able to just try it out. And then the same thing happened with the next event. We had a cleanup, and that's the picture that you see now in the background. I actually, when I was a kid, I used to clean up garbage on my own in Cooksville because it was so dirty. And my birthday was on Earth Day. So I thought like, okay, this is fate. Like I need to clean up Cooksville. And so when I was 13, I used to go around with garbage bags and I cleaned it up myself. And so when I got hired for Our Commonists, I told Hardy that we have to do a community cleanup because it's really, really dirty here. And so we got together and we had 60 people show up. And it was crazy because I think everyone was just so tired of the pandemic and so isolated that we had such a big response to people just wanting to come together and clean up. And something that I noticed was that people were a little bit afraid when they first came because we were just coming out of the pandemic. So people were, obviously in their masks and they were isolating, but I think they were also kind of isolating in a way where they just felt like, oh no, like I'm in person and I haven't seen people for so long. It's sort of terrifying. But then once they started cleaning up and we went through the town and we went and cleaned the plazas as well, including the park, people started warming up and they were smiling again and they were just excited to be out and to be connecting. And so that's kind of how it started getting more and more people started getting more into our events and wanting to come because they just wanted to be around other people. It was the same thing. We had a Bollywood dance event and we met a Bollywood dancer who used to teach Bollywood dance in India. And so we asked her if she could lead a class, and we had, I think, about like 60, 70 or something people, maybe 80 show up. And it was people from all ages. We don't try to target one specific group. We want everyone to be there. If you're 3 years old, if you're 10 years old, if you're 40, if you're 50 or you're 80, whatever the case may be, we just want people to connect as neighbors and friends and residents. And then out of those connections, we see what opportunities there are for projects. Is that a good start?
That's so wonderful. Thank you for inspiring us, Nicole. Really appreciate it. And I'm so happy that Volunteer MBC has been able to provide lots and lots of volunteers for your events, and I hope we can continue to partner and work on events and projects that really connect the Cooksville community. So speaking of that, Volunteer MBC is part of many important collaborative efforts in Peel. We engage with our members, many roundtables and networks, ad hoc committees, as you can see on the screen, and we strive to step in where we can to add the most value, play a leadership role where we are most effective, and we also play a supporting role once there is momentum that keeps things going. And during the pandemic, as part of our strategic plan, we are striving to focus on those who are most vulnerable. And much of our work centered around emergency responses in 2021, but we also did a lot of advocacy for affordable housing alongside the Peel Alliance and homelessness initiative. And we chair the implementation task force for that Peel Poverty Reduction Committee. And in November, they held their Financial Literacy Month, and we ran a very successful financial literacy campaign, an event for low-income individuals to build up their financial resiliency. And we collaborated with each of our municipalities on the different youth programs that they have. And we promoted trustworthy information about the vaccines from Peel Public Health, contributing to the efforts to protect the community. And we also advised on a population table about how to reach seniors 80 plus, which was quite a challenge. For our efforts on the mass vax table, plus in advocacy, community outreach, mask distribution, and in recruiting volunteers for mass vaccination clinics, we received the Certificate of Appreciation from our Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Lowe, and Commissioner of Health Services, Nancy Polizzinelli. And yesterday, many of you may have heard, but Dr. Lowe has accepted a new role as CEO of the College of Family Physicians of Canada. And during his tenure, and thanks to the efforts of community partners like Volunteer MBC and our member organizations, Peel went from being one of the hardest hit by COVID-19 in Ontario and Canada to being a leader in vaccine coverage. And we would like to really thank and congratulate Dr. Lowe for everything that he has done. Today, almost 3.4 million vaccinations have been delivered in Peel, and 92.3% of all the residents aged 12 have at least had 2 doses of protection. So we're very grateful that our volunteers were able to make a significant difference in helping with those efforts. And also with all the efforts through one of our member organizations in Brampton, Roots Community Services. Next slide. So at the community response table, we played a big role in 2021 in a number of ways, including on the aspect of reaching isolated seniors. We led the planning team for a 5-part virtual series that was full of insights from community service organizations and experts on how we can reach and connect with isolated seniors more effectively. It was held over Seniors Month and with over 500 participants who gave positive feedback with an average overall rating of 4.6 out of 5. And the whole series, if you missed it, it's very interesting and it can still be watched on our YouTube channel. So the region of Peel continued to support emergency response interventions to get food to vulnerable communities, and therefore funneled funding through its collaborative change fund for this purpose. And Volunteer MBC seized the opportunity by leveraging its existing collaboration with one of our member organizations, Community Living Mississauga. And the Volvable Collective focuses on generating opportunities for people who have an intellectual disability, who themselves are a vulnerable population, often facing financial hardships. As popular as volunteer opportunities were really scarce during the lockdown, we organized virtual workshops led by a nutritionist related to food handling so that these participants could be more volunteer ready for food security roles. And shown here are the amazing kits provided to participants to follow along in those workshops and get that hands-on feeling, if you will, even from behind their screens. And there were over 20 participants, and they also learned about all the member organizations in Peel, who they were involved with, and the food service partners in this project as well. They included organizations, and many are on the line today: Vita Center, VON Peel, Knights Table in Brampton, and TRCA. So we're really, really pleased with that, the outcome of that project. And we're trying to continue to make sure that those individuals do get engaged in a meaningful capacity and a meaningful role through Volunteer MBC's referral services. National Volunteer Week. In 2021, we had a wonderful National Volunteer Week campaign on social media. It included a special thank you message for our in-house volunteers, which you'll see in the report. And at the height of summer, we even held our first virtual volunteer expo in partnership with Sheridan College and WCG Employment Services, so that job seekers could elevate and really demonstrate their skills through volunteering. It was a big success and has spurred us to organize more, because employability is a big focus and a big priority for Volunteer MBC. The Volunteer MBC Learning Center had another big year as well. We developed e-learning modules for Volunteer Canada and a complete learning management system for them as well. We also developed a learning management system for our neighbor volunteer center in Guelph, Wellington, the People and Information Network. And the revenue from this service helped us to offer learning to our members at an inexpensive rate. One of our big wins through the Investment Readiness Project, through which we have developed a curriculum of 5 module courses with Do Good fundraising. And we're almost complete with the e-learning development for these courses as well, which will add to our inventory of learning opportunities. One big focus of the Learning Center was our Boardwalk program funded by the Ontario Trillium Foundation. Through this support, we added 5 board governance modules into our inventory. And this video was about the first run of Boardwalk. Will give you a better sense of the program serve.
Happy that the Ontario Trillium Foundation through the Government of Ontario has been able to help. I know COVID's been a very difficult year.
introduce not just is who's in the room, it's how do people get to be in the room? How do some people have more privilege than others? That allows some people to have access and others to not.
Within your culture of innovation, you need to bring a design thinking approach to develop new programs. This means not starting with how can I be innovative, but instead starting from what problem needs to be solved.
Having a vision for yourself as an individual. Normally that's never shown up first. But I challenge you. What's the vision that you'd like to set for yourself?
Been a treasurer on a few boards. So board members are ultimately responsible for the financial affairs of the organization. And it is board members. It's not the treasurer is ultimately responsible.
And the moment I joined up with the board, it suddenly clicked for me. I went, oh my gosh, this is how I can serve back to the community. I'd done donations and volunteering and that sort of thing, but where could I really serve in a strategic and impactful, meaningful way?
One little organization that houses and serves 12 people need all sorts of skill sets and competencies to run the house on a non-for-profit basis.
So to understand the full picture of how non-for-profit organizations the board of directors would operate in Canada here. And I believe, as I said, it's really very professional, well set training structure that I've seen so far with the boardroom.
So that's just a snippet of what Boardwalk is all about. But these individuals have all received all the training that you kind of saw highlighted to make them really effective board members. And they bring a huge diversity and of skills and ethnic backgrounds. And so we're just continuing to match those individuals to our member organizations that are, have their AGMs coming up and that are looking to replace board members that are retiring or leaving the organization. So we're very, very pleased with the results so far. And then there was our youth programming, which has been making a big comeback, including these 4 efforts. So there was our Power of Youth during National Youth Week series, the Early Leaders Youth Mentorship Program, our Care and Connect, the Peel Youth Micro Volunteering Month, and the Voice Youth Volunteer Expo. First of all, we had our Power of Youth series, and that happened during National Youth Week, live streamed on social media, which was a really, really fantastic event, very, very well attended. Then we had our pilot youth peer mentorship program, where adolescent youth mentored early adolescent youth and helped them to take their first steps into the volunteer world. The next program is the Care and Connect. It's a Peel Youth micro-volunteering project that was a pilot initiative developed in response to the lack of volunteering opportunities for the youth during the pandemic. Youth were given this opportunity to take part in various micro-volunteering activities, both in person and virtually, and then to get connected to the missions of those community service organizations and really help them to raise awareness about social issues. And the activities included creating media content, doing acts of service, and a lot of advocacy initiatives. And it was really, really successful. As you can see, some of the results were amazing. One of the posters created, you can see there by one of the volunteers, and they really took this to heart and did a fantastic job. And at the end of the year, to mark International Volunteer Day and a UN theme for 2021 for a common future, we hosted a Youth Volunteer Expo where participants got to hear from some amazing youth community leaders and network with various organizations in Peel. And the event ended up with a visioning exercise where the participants brainstormed their ideas on how volunteerism will look better and be better as our collective future. We also enhanced our capacity in every way we could, our internal capacity. And in addition to the many dedicated and skilled volunteers that we engage, we also hired 3 youth via Canada Summers Jobs Grant, which we're very grateful for. We engaged co-op students from Sheridan College and some local high schools. And we engaged corporate volunteers, including the TD MindPower, who helped develop a brilliant Power BI dashboard for us. And we were very fortunate to once again enhance our internal capacity last year, as I mentioned, through the Canada Summer Jobs. We engaged 3 outstanding individuals. Shika Patel designed and launched our Early Leaders Mentorship Program. Lois Louis, she hosted our Care and Connect initiatives and our Youth Volunteer Expo. And Zara Zina supported our community outreach. And I think you will remember her because she was also a host for the green carpet portion of our Voskers this year. And we thank them for their contributions. We really could not be more grateful. There's the Voskers. Well, the 2001 edition was just lovely, and it was hosted by a community champion, Urs here, and included community leaders like Hurricane Hazel. But most of all, we celebrated all the volunteers in Peel, including 36 award nominees and 13 award categories. And we also recently had a blast at our 2022 virtual Voskers, which had a record number of nominations, close to 75, I believe. And this video that we're going to show you will give you a look back at all 3 of the virtual editions that we have done.
And the V Oscar goes to Dick Winter. Congratulations.
I'm tired. I thought I've got to put something back in the community.
Tonight, we tell a different story, that of the dreamers themselves who look to the sky in search of answers, the trailblazers who walk the extra mile and comfort others. Tonight, we tell the true hero story of you.
Sherilyn Roman. Congratulations. Daryl Morrison. Congratulations, Daryl.
Think there might have been a little bit more, but you can watch it online as well. So it's so cool, and it brings back many fond memories. And here's hoping that 2023 brings us back to an in-person edition finally, and that all of you can join us and participate in person. So thank you to the supporters of the Voskers. And because of that, we also raised critical funds that helped us to do the important work that we do. Thank you to all our member organizations that nominated their volunteers. It's a wonderful, wonderful way to express our gratitude to the real heroes of Peel, our volunteers. Can we go to the next slide? And that wasn't the only event that boosted our capacity. Our annual golf tournament returned in 2021 after a hiatus from the previous year. And it was an incredible event with 78 golfers in attendance, all golfing under the sun while following COVID protocols. And we were able to raise $24,000 despite having to initially postpone it due to the weather. And we definitely were able to use that to help support our programs. And then we had our Under the Wing campaign. We reached out to many of our supporters in that campaign in the winter of 21, and it culminated in Giving Tuesday, and then we were able to raise some critical funds that helped us to protect the community. We called the appeal Under Your Wing, and these supporters helped us serve our member organizations during these most challenging times, and we truly took care of the community, and it helped raise $4,000. So none of that would be possible without the help of the Ontario Trillium Foundation, through which we received a resiliency fund that actually allowed us to engage the support we required to develop a fund development plan. And it was also very much a function of the Regions of Peel support, which really enabled us to have the equipment and tools that we needed to reach out to the community. We've been able to build our SharePoint application, such as our performance measurement framework, to really track the progress of our strategic plan, and marketing tools to better engage us on social media. And through social media and email marketing, we've been able to grow and reach many, many more residents and organizations across the region of Peel. So that's our summary of our annual report. And we had a lot to say, and there's so much more, but you can really have a closer look online and as you click on the link that's in the chat. I'm going to hand it over back to Jim now, who will ask you to approve the annual report.
Thank you, Corinne, and congratulations to you, the entire team at Volunteer MBC, the board, our member organizations, our donors, our sponsors. I recently heard a definition about resilience, and it was different than how I understood resilience to be. Instead of bouncing back after a challenge, it's about bouncing forward. And I look at the great work that has been done by this team, and I've got to feel that it's been a big bounce forward in spite of some very challenging times. I digress, though. May I have a motion to approve the annual report as presented, please? Thank you. May I have a seconder? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I'd like to call for a vote, please. All in favor? Any opposed? Abstains? Marina, can I confirm that that has passed, please?
Yes, Jim.
Thank you. Terrific.
Wonderful.
So, yeah.
I'll take it back from you, Jim, if that's
Thank you, Corinne.
and talk a little bit about our future plans. One small step for ant, one giant leap for ant kind. And I'd like to share some of the things, as I mentioned, that are coming up, which is our huge commitment to DEI. We also have our golf tournament, and I'd like to talk a little bit about our membership for 2021-2023. So our DEI commitment, as mentioned, our social inclusion ambassadors devised a new DEI commitment for our organizations, and we will be communicating that with our members throughout the year. How we're going to action and implement this commitment in all aspects of our existence. You know, it says that Volunteer MBC strives to create an equitable community where everyone is respected, valued, and where they truly belong. We celebrate differences and all dimensions of diversity, and we welcome all the new ways of thinking, doing, and being. And we aim to reflect the vibrant communities that we serve. And then we have our September 7th golf tournament, and we hope to see all the golfers there, and that will come out to hopefully support us, and so we can do some more fundraising to help support our programs. And talking a little bit about our membership. So in 2021, you will remember, we implemented our new membership structure, and overall the feedback has been positive, but we did receive many good questions that made us realize that we had some more work to do to make it easier for members to understand. And so therefore, we're working on improving our communications around that membership aspect. And the structure and pricing is still the same, but instead the terms subscriber, somebody is saying that the slides are not showing. Can everybody still see the slides?
Can see them, Corinne.
Can
Yeah.
see.
Okay. The structure and the pricing is still the same, but instead of the term subscriber, membership, and enterprise, we have renamed the levels as basic, premium, and enterprise. And we're looking forward to bringing in a lot of new benefits for members as well, including more exclusive resources, more volunteer expos, and even a peer learning hub for our boards, and as well for many of our, also for our leaders of volunteers. And so we're really hoping that those hubs will help us significantly and the community and our members as we move forward. And you will start to see the improved lingo and details over the course of this month, which we will obviously share with you as well. And in addition, we've also revised our membership policy for the first time in a number of years. And it's really, we took on this work to really reflect the current structure. And we also have a collective responsibility to do our best to give volunteers the best experience possible, because we provide a meaningful experience for the volunteers, but they have to be experiences that are safe, honest, fair, and inclusive, so that this is also a big component of our revised policy. And this policy will also be shared following this meeting. So we really focused on DEI in that membership as well, decent work, and we have several references there. And so it's very important for us to make sure that when we send referrals, when we send the volunteers to you, that they are welcomed and received, so that they feel that they really belong with your member organizations. I wanted to, excuse me, really thank our members. In theory, Volunteer MBC is a charity, but in practice, we are a collective, and we are merely a reflection of our member organizations, their needs, their strengths, their touch points all over the community, and the wonderful work that they do. And we're just so pleased that we are helping you and trying to help you to build your capacity, and send lots of volunteers, send you the learning, and provide you with lots of resources. And we hope that we can continue to do this work and support you, so that ultimately, we create a better community. We improve lives through volunteers. And so it is a true honor for us to serve you. Thank you so much. Thank you as well to our sustainers. A big thanks to the Town of Caledon, Do Good Fundraising, and our board president, Jim Wader. Your contributions allow us to keep membership very affordable and serve many in our family of nonprofit organizations. And this is our new membership structure. And I also wanted to really thank you, a huge thank you to our funders, United Way, Greater Toronto, Region of Peel, Mississauga, the town of Mississauga, the city of Mississauga, the city of Brampton, town of Caledon, the Community Foundation of Mississauga, through which we received grants from the Community Foundation of Canada, the Government of Canada, and the Ontario Trillium Foundation. We'd like to thank all our funders for their crucial support for our work. We've mentioned them in a number of ways, but it's truly incredible now to see that the work that we specialize in is being recognized for its important value and urgency. And we'd also like to thank you. A huge thank you to all our supporters, to all those who donated, sponsored our programs and events. Thank you. It was everything to us. And although some contributions were anonymous, no contribution went unnoticed. And it was material or moral support. People who believe in Volunteer MBC, we are humbled and so grateful to you. Thank you to our staff, our wonderful staff, Marina, Nadine, Shaminda, Robert, Maduri, Sean, and Nazneen. My colleagues, they've made an incredible sacrifice, shared so many of their hours, and we were just like those ants, making a bridge and lifting heavy weights more than our size. But thank you so much for all your support. And of course, a special thanks to our in-house volunteers who contributed over 8,000 hours, and the internal economic value of this is the equivalent of $231,000, which is absolutely amazing. Our in-house volunteers participate in various programs and initiatives, and they sit on our various committees, and, you know, not to forget our wonderful, wonderful board. And they make the impossible seem possible. And I'd like to finish off with a quote that mentions that the large-scale change is grounded in small steps towards a big idea. Thank you so much for being here. I am going to hand it over to Jim to get a motion to adjourn our 2022 AGM. Thank you so much for all your support and for being here today. Have a wonderful rest of the afternoon.
I officially adjourn. I just wanted to ask everyone on the call, once we conclude, if you can, if you're able, we'd like you to come off camera and wave hello, say goodbye, whatever you want to do, but we'd like to have a chance to do a screenshot if possible. So with that, and to wrap up the official part of our business today, may I have a motion to adjourn our meeting, please? I get a motion. Thank you. And a seconder, please. Thank you. And I'd like to call a vote. All in favor?
Whole bunch of seconders there. Yeah, oh yeah.
Any oppose? I didn't think so. Any abstainers? No. Well, with that, the motion is carried, correct, Marina?
Yes, thank you.
I officially adjourn this meeting.